right, thanks parents and guardians for joining me tonight as I go over History Club's trip to Europe. This is a trip that was offered a couple years ago and was supposed to leave 2020, June 2020, and obviously COVID happened and ruined that for us. But we are glad to announce that we have pushed it out to next summer. Hopefully everything is back to normal as it's going to be at least. And we are offering the trip to some new grade levels, this year's 8th graders, this year's 9th graders who did not have that chance before. They were too young. So I'm excited to offer this opportunity to more students and have a little clearer path going forward as to what this trip could be next summer. So I thank you for attending. Certainly, if you could mute yourself, if you're not already, I believe everybody is already muted. As you can see down the right-hand corner there, if you have a QR code app or if you can type that link in there, this is a sign-in form, and really this is going to be how you ask me questions. If you are watching this recorded, and certainly you don't have to fill this out, but if you have questions, this is the way you're going to want to submit them to me. This will also be posted at the end of the presentation, so maybe you want to have a paper and pen handy in case you have questions throughout. I'm not going to be taking questions live, so we can get through this in a timely manner, but I will be looking over questions and getting you back to you via email at a later date with any questions that you have. So certainly you're going to want to have paper and pen handy if any questions come up, and then you can always submit them through the form later on. So again, welcome. Where are we going? Austria, Germany, and Switzerland. This is EF Tours, one of the most popular trips. This is a trip that Kauneski Valley took several years ago and really was one of the main reasons that I picked this trip, talking with students, talking with teachers who went on this trip and said it was truly life-changing for them. And you know, the advisor up there of a lot of these trips has been on several trips and claims that this is by far the best one that she had been on. So that kind of sold me on this trip and giving this opportunity to students. So I'm excited to offer this trip to students to these three countries and many different cities that we'll be exploring within these three locations. Just quickly to go over kind of what we're going to talk about in this meeting. I know probably priority number one for most parents is safety, now that COVID is a major issue. So that's what I will be starting with. I'll be talking about travel plans, kind of where we're going more specifically, what I hope students will gain from travel, what is included price-wise, what's not included, and then I'll also be talking about the overall price and dates and all of that good stuff. And then finally, you can submit any questions you have to me at the end and register for the trip if you're interested. So let's get started. First off, who am I? I am Jordan Collum. I'm a history teacher, 9th grade primarily, but a social studies teacher at Williamson High School. I have been teaching now for, next year I guess will be my 10th year, so I'm finishing up my 9th year here at Williamson. I'm a Williamson graduate. I grew up in Millerton, so this is where I've always been, and it's really a little bit of the reason why I've offered this trip. I went to high school here and never had this opportunity offered to me. Even in college, I never had this opportunity offered to me. And although I have traveled a couple times, one time abroad, this is something that not only will be life-changing for students, but I'm guessing for myself as well, as I've definitely never traveled to Europe, and am just as excited as the students who will be going on this. I travel to learn more about cultures and people, and again, that's something I'm hoping to expose students to. I'm hoping that they will grow. I really hope this is life-changing. Certainly, I try to offer experiences in the classroom that students will remember for the rest of their lives. I know that sounds like a stretch, but that's truly what I try to do each and every day. And this is one thing that I know. I know students will take with them the rest of their life, and they will never forget this trip. In our little community, being able to offer this, I hope really makes a difference in their life and expands their knowledge of the world around them, really increases their cultural awareness, and understanding. Some people going on this trip probably have never left Tioga County. So this is truly going to be eye-opening to the different types of people and cultures out there. And it's just overall, it's going to be a blast, and I'm so looking forward to it. The company that we have chosen, there are a lot of travel companies out there. I made the mistake when first looking into this several years ago to kind of reach out to several different companies, and now I get a daily, weekly call from just about all of those companies trying to sell me on this, and it was pretty easy for me to choose EF just because they have been doing this for so long. Almost 60 years they've been doing this. They have staff around the world, every country that we are going to be traveling to. They have local offices. They have people who are living in those countries, and really they're the leader. They are the leading company from the research I have done in international education student travel trips. So that is why I went with this tour, and I am even more happy now that COVID has taken place. And now that's something else we need to be concerned about. Just the amount of staff that they have on the ground, the resources that they have in these countries, it is unmatched by any other company. So I want to reassure you, we are going with a top-notch company here. Now, of course, safety is priority for parents and guardians sending their loved one away for 10 days. I know that's probably a little bit stressful, certainly during this time period, and I could have chosen to take those students this year. So far there's no travel ban or anything, and if I'm not mistaken, I think maybe CV is, but I don't know if they backed out of that decision. But for me, and I'm not saying that this wasn't the priority of CV, but safety is my priority, and there's just so much unknown going into this summer. We didn't even know if we'd be able to do everything that the students had paid for. I didn't know what the future was going to hold. So I decided to make that a priority and push that out, even though unfortunately that kind of took some more students off our list of students attending this. We still have a small group of students attending that initially signed up, but we have lost quite a few. And for me, the priority number one is safety, and I can assure you that EF is at the top of the game in this. As I talked about, they have people everywhere, all around the world. They have offices all around the world. We will have our personal tour director with us the entire time, who is very familiar with the locations that we will be traveling. They do these trips many times throughout the year. This isn't a trip where we get off the plane and it's a free-for-all. We do what we want. We go where we want. This is a very structured, planned, with people in place to make sure that this is safe and organized. They even have a safety and incidents response team. They have upped this with COVID. They have taken tons of precautions because of COVID, and this is something certainly I'm sure will change over the next year and only get stronger as we get closer to our trip. If you were wondering how many adults there will be on the trip, there will be our personal tour director, again, who is very familiar with the area, and then there will be one chaperone for every 6 travelers that enroll, and plus me. So that's quite a few adults. It's not something where I'm taking 25 students and I have to keep track of them all. I probably would not sign up for this if that was the case. We will have small groups of 6 students to 1 adult, plus there will be me who can step in at any moment if I need to, plus our tour director who will step in if we need to as well. So lots of adults will be going, plus we have several adult travelers actually, parents and teachers who have reserved a spot on this trip. So there will be more than really just the chaperones when we're talking about adults. There will be teachers going who are not really considered chaperones, and adults as well. So safety will be our priority, and again is EF, so I can assure you that all decisions made will be with that in mind. Something that I wanted to talk about here that has changed with EF that I'm very thankful for, I don't think anybody would do without it, is their risk-free enrollment period. So before EF, you put a deposit down the first day, and once you started making payments, if you backed out, you did lose some of that money. They have changed this, obviously due to COVID and things constantly changing with the world and travel restrictions and just the risk. They now, if you enroll tonight or in the next couple of days, you can cancel up until August 1st and receive a 100% refund, a full refund of what you have paid into this trip. So that gives you, 3 to 4 months to continue to look at what is next year going to look like, and hopefully by the end of the summer we have a good idea of that. If any point you're not feeling good about it, you can cancel up to August 1st. So that is something I'm very grateful for. I think it was 30 days or less before you had that option. So they have certainly extended that. And again, when things come up, let's say it's December of next year and COVID gets really bad and travel restrictions, I know before they accommodated students, they bent their policies because they realize there's nothing we can do. So even after August 1st, certainly if something happened around the world that just didn't make it safe or reasonable for us to travel, and you could not attend any longer, then certainly this is something I can assure you they will accommodate. They have been great with, we had probably 15 to 20 travelers cancel, and I have not heard anything bad about those students or adults having to cancel. Now, this is what I'm excited about. Where are we going? One of the best parts about traveling abroad, and I'll probably get to my favorite here at the end, but it's just the landscape. Going to these countries that have architecture, landscape, geography that we've never witnessed before, beauty that we cannot experience here in the States. We will be going to some of the most beautiful places in the entire world on this trip: Vienna, Lucerne, Munich. So, we'll be looking at palaces, castles, Olympic stadiums. It's just going to be a breathtaking trip. We'll be going through the Swiss Alps in Switzerland. That is not even up here, and that's probably the thing that I'm most excited to see myself, in addition to obviously the numerous castles that we will be looking at as well in the Munich Olympic Stadium. This is historical architecture that is a once-in-a-lifetime experience that I am just so excited about. Even the castle that you see there in the middle picture, I believe was featured in a Cinderella movie or one of those Disney movies. These are just historically significant, unbelievable places that are going to blow students away. Students, I personally knew a couple students who went on the CV trip that lived in Elkland, and got a little bit of their feedback when I was looking at picking a trip, and it was life-changing, as was the reason I picked to do this for students and to host this trip. Their life has changed, and that not only were they influenced by cultures and people that they met, but it really just expanded their knowledge of the world around them. It truly made them want to travel more. It wanted them to experience life outside the United States, get to know different cultures and people. They claim that this trip, because it's a lot of work, and you're away for 10 days from your parents, from family, for the most part, and there's a lot of independence that takes place. There's a lot of decisions that have to be made on your own. There's a lot of things that maybe you're used to your parents or guardians or family members doing for you that as a student you have to take initiative and do on your own. So we see a lot. There's going to be a lot of growth, a lot of independence on this trip, and that's just another takeaway for students on this trip. Now, certainly parents, what do parents think of this trip? EF has provided us with a video here that I'm going to show you. Hopefully the sound works okay. Hopefully you can hear it. But this is kind of the parent perspective of parents who sent their children and what their view on it. So I'll take a couple minutes and show this to you, and then we'll get back into the presentation here.
Brian, you see me?
I can't see you, no.
It says, okay, there I go.
There you are.
I don't know what I did, but I did something. I think that the EF tours help kids be willing to try new things and do new things and be more accepting and willing to explore new cultures and new people, because I can see her blooming. I can see her little bud and her bloom getting bigger and bigger and bigger.
as parents, it's like you're writing checks for all these things that you do, soccer plates, show choir, whatever it is that you're doing. This, to me, when I look back now that my kids are in college, is the best thing we did for our kids.
The kids are really very much experiencing things that we as a family could not create on our own in some cases, because we just don't have that kind of access.
It's certainly worth it. And I mean, the price is real. That's what it costs to get to Europe, get to South Africa, get around the world, to eat and have bus transportation and to do things. And so, of course, it's going to cost.
But then you think about it, we're paying this over the course of many, many months. Yeah, we can handle this.
The payment plans were awesome because it made it affordable. It made it reasonable.
Paying on the trip at the beginning really was almost like I didn't even see it and feel it, and I appreciated that.
It was just so easy to decide the payment options, to have the capability of having friends and family, help fund the trip.
It empowers us to be able to give our child an experience that we know that will help them become a more rounded person, a more complete person.
I wanted her to practice those skills that I hope that I taught her in independence and being self-sufficient and making decisions for herself.
It's feet on the ground learning the whole time you're there. You're learning about food, culture, you're learning simple things like how to navigate an airport, how to deal with people who are grumpy, how to take care of yourself, find yourself a snack.
Set their own alarm, wake up, get dressed, pack their bags, and be ready to be out by a certain time.
Money exchanges and how to deal with money and how to flush the toilet in Venice, or what to expect before you get off the bus. And those are the things that middle schools need to know right away.
The ability to go and experience things is great growth. It's an investment for life. It's an investment for life.
All right. So, again, from the parent perspective, I know that this is a lot for parents to imagine taking their child, giving the opportunity for the child to travel abroad for 10 days and maybe have limited contact with them. But hopefully that gives you a little bit of reassurance of what your child is going to get out of this trip. Hopefully that helps a little bit clarify some things for you. I don't know a lot about this, but they on their website, EF's website, there is more information on this. There are opportunities for credits, both high school and college credits, if students do a little extra work related to this trip. So, whether that be pretty much one college class worth of credits, 3 credits, or a high school credit with a personal project. These are options that students can utilize if they want. I don't know if there's fees associated or what, but I just wanted to throw this out there. There are these opportunities. You can look more in if you'd like. Something interesting about this trip, and really I think adds to the excitement, is this was a little bit of an issue up for debate the first time I offered this, because we had almost 40 people going on this trip. When you have 40 people on your trip, then you travel pretty much alone the entire trip. But if you fall under that 40 threshold, then they will team you up with another school somewhere across the country, across the United States. And I'm guessing we're going to fall under that threshold for this trip. So it's very likely we will be traveling with another school somewhere across the country, which again is another opportunity for students to learn more about people and even culture outside of Tioga County. And really, this is, when I talk to the CV students who went, these are friendships that they have made with these students. And I think they traveled with a school from maybe California. I can't remember where it was, but it was pretty much across the country. That they formed these relationships, that they still have contact with these people that they met. And one student's even planning to visit, someone that they met on this trip. So again, just another awesome, exciting opportunity for students to meet more people and get that exposure different things. Now, the part you've probably anxiously been waiting for, what's included price-wise and all of that. So this is a list of things that are included. Obviously, your airfare, the hotels we'll be staying at, the tour director that's going to be with us the entire time. We will be busing the entire time once we get off the planes in our initial location. From there, it's pretty much busing through the countries to all of our locations. Obviously that's paid for. Breakfast and dinner daily is something that will be paid for, among other things that you can see listed here as well. Now, the things that you'll have to cover. You will have to get a passport. Also listed here, spending money. Most lunches they will have to cover, the cost of a sandwich or whatever they decide to get, piece of pizza that day. And then tips, which will be kind of included, and I'll inform students pretty much how much that will be. I kind of just collect that and give that, and that's kind of for the tour guides, the buses, and the things like that. But let me just talk a little bit about this, because fundraising will be available for this trip. My plan is to do maybe one before the end of the year, depending on how many students we have, and then 3 or 4 next school year. And really the purpose, I'm doing it because in reality, with only a year left, and even with 2 years, fundraising the cost of this trip is pretty much impossible. Can you cover a little bit of the cost? Maybe. But my goal with fundraising is to get as close as I can to making it so you have no additional costs on this trip as a parent or guardian than what the trip actually costs, and maybe to buy your passport. As far as spending money goes, lunches, those two are big, and maybe even hopefully we can include the tips in there as well, where we fundraise enough for your, as long as your child will put the effort into fundraising, all of those fundraisings, goes hard at it, we can bank all of that money, and then I can get a debit card for them to be able to use in Europe, that they can use for their spending money and their lunches. I'm hoping a couple $100s for each student will cover most of that, at least for spending money and covering those extra food costs that will go into this trip. And then maybe if they do enough fundraising, maybe we can cover the tips as well. So that's my hope with this trip, to make that happen. I don't make any promises, but that I'm going to at least offer those things for those opportunities for the children attending this. Now we get to the cost. Okay, the cost has actually gone up. I think if I was to start a whole new trip, it's around $4,600. They allowed me to keep the price I initially signed up for 3 or 4 years ago, which was $4,025. That's the full. And if you want to sign up, you'll make a $95 payment tonight or over the next couple of days to lock in your spot. That will be taken off that $4,000. If you want to pay this monthly, after that $95 deposit, it's $280 a month. Again, unfortunately, we only have 14 months rather than 24 that we had before. So, the payment is a little bit high. Bi-weekly's about $140. And I just want to throw out a couple things before I go over this. You will see the parent cost, or, the adult. If adult wants to travel with the child, they can travel. Obviously, it's a little bit more money for them. But if I'm not mistaken, I can look more into this. If an adult wants to travel, I believe EF will cover any clearances and maybe even the passport if they want to travel. So they'll take care of some of those expenses. And then there's also manual payment options. If you don't want to do monthly, you can't afford that. You can make maybe a lump sum to start, or the $95, and then say I'm going to pay every 3 months, or I'm going to pay once halfway through and then all at the end. We had students come up with all sorts of different manual payment options. That's something you would reach out to EF for, and they would talk you through maybe the different options that you'd have and what that would cost. But if you enroll by Friday, you will get $200 off the trip. Okay, so if you enroll by Friday, sign up for the trip by Friday, that's $200 off that $4,000. In addition, when you put that $95 deposit down, again, so that's $300 coming off that $4,000, so you're around $3,700 when you start making payments on this. I did have a parent kind of message me, about the lump sums. The reason I talked about that manual payment option, because I know, obviously the stimulus, I know most families need that to use that somewhere else, but the parent did ask me. So obviously the manual payment option would apply for that. Or you can just make a lump sum if you have that, and that will reduce your monthly payment. If you figure the $200 discount, the $95 down, and if you're going to put, let's say, a $1,400 stimulus payment down, that will reduce that monthly payment. You'd probably have to verify the math. I would say it's going to drop it about $100 to $120. So now you're looking at $160 to $180 a month for the next 14 months. I believe, again, you can do the math there on that, but that's what you're looking at if you choose to do that. And again, or you can just do the manual payment. So those options are there. There's some other options. They do give a Global Citizen Scholarship that your child can apply for. I think this is $1,000 off the trip. Again, on their website, you can find out more. They have customized donation pages already set up where you just put your basic information out, and then you can send this out to family, friends, whenever during the holidays, right now, whatever, and then they can donate to this page to, again, reduce that cost for you and maybe knock down that monthly payment if you want, and then obviously the $200 discount if you enroll by Friday. Now, when are we gonna travel? We have a window. So our window is the earliest we could leave next summer is June 10th, and the latest we could get back is June 27th. We will travel, it's pretty much 10 days that we're gone between that window. Usually they say they try to let you know 30 to 60 days before the trip. Last year we actually knew our dates before COVID even happened. So in, I believe, the beginning of March, we found out a couple weeks before, maybe even the end of February. So we found out 4 or 5 months before, which I'm hoping is the case before. But if you're planning a vacation for next year ahead of time and you want your traveler to go, certainly these are the dates you'll want to block off to not plan anything if you want that child to be included. So that's our window, and again, I'll be updating you if anything changes about that. Though that beginning date and end date cannot change, but once we know more specifically which days we'll be traveling, I'll immediately let you know that. And just one last look at a couple of the locations we will be exploring. And again, probably one of my parts of this trip that I'm most excited about is certainly the food. I cannot forget about the food. This is another thing that students are going to be exposed to. And travelers are going to be exposed to is foods that they have never seen before, heard of before. This is an exciting part. I have a fairly restricted diet. I may have to experiment a little bit with that diet because I do not want to miss out on this opportunity. So just, again, another exciting part for you, our students to experience is the food that we will get to experience in these countries. So we have 10 spots guaranteed right now that are open. The way you secure that is you must put $95 down. And again, if you do that in the next 48 hours pretty much, then that'll take $200 off your total trip cost. Now, this is the page that shows you the links and the enrollment number if you want to get signed up. Okay, if you want to get signed up for the trip, you can either scan that QR code at the bottom, or you can go to the website where that link is provided, at www.eftours.com and and then enter our trip number. Okay, those are your options for enrolling in the actual trip. Okay, so I hope that all of you in attendance have plans to sign up for the trip, and thank you for attending tonight. Hopefully this was informative and gave you the answers that you were looking for. If you have any questions, fill out the form. The link's there. It was at the beginning of the presentation. And again, thank you for coming, and I look forward to hearing from you.